On 5 News tonight, Cameron calls for calm, Boris breaks cover, and Corbyn faces a crisis. The Prime Minister says the outcome of the referendum will be respected, but that Britain's position in the world will be protected.
I believe we should hold fast to a vision of Britain that wants to be respected abroad, tolerant at home, engaged in the world, and working with our international partners to advance the prosperity and security of our nation for generations to come.
Boris Johnson appears in public for the first time in days and appeals for unity.
Morning, Mr. Corbyn. Why are you continuing to hold on, Mr.
Good morning,
Corbyn?
everybody. Nice
Will
to
you
see
resign
you.
later
Nice
today
to see
if more
all.
people leave?
Very nice to see you all.
And Jeremy Corbyn faces another day of resignations, but remains determined that his own is not among them. Also tonight, hate crimes up 50% since the referendum result. Is Britain getting more divided? And what does the Brexit vote mean for you? We'll hear from a consumer expert on what you should do.
And I'm in Nice, where England face what should be, on paper, an easy step into the quarter-finals. But could Iceland freeze them out?
Welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Danny Sinha. David Cameron made his first appearance since his resignation on Friday morning, telling a packed House of Commons that the result of the EU referendum will be respected. But he said many of the next steps will be left to whoever takes over from him. And that comes as turmoil grips the Labour Party, with more resignations from the shadow cabinet and the deputy leader telling Jeremy Corbyn he has no authority. Here's our political editor, Andy Bell.
They are still the government, but since the last time they met, everything has changed. The Prime Minister's going, and most of them backed him on the referendum, but some of them did not. For the first time, they've all had to sit back down together. When they came out, some said a little.
What was the atmosphere like?
Business-like. Plenty more to do in the next 3 months.
Some said a bit more.
We are where we are. We have this result and we've got to be true to it and we have to implement it. That won't be this Prime Minister's job, it'll be the next Prime Minister.
This leaver said nothing at all.
What was the mood like in Cabinet? Was it angry? Were there recriminations?
Sorry, excuse me, guys, can you just give the way, please? Sorry.
In fact, they had agreed to set up a new unit of civil servants to start preparing for talks with Brussels. Soon afterwards, the man who never wanted to negotiate our exit was on his way to Parliament to say how he hoped the next months, or maybe years, will play out.
As we proceed with implementing this decision and facing the challenges that it will undoubtedly bring, I believe we should hold fast to a vision of Britain that wants to be respected abroad, tolerant at home, engaged in the world, and working with our international partners to advance the prosperity and security of our nation for generations to come. I have fought for these things every day of my political life. I will continue to do so, and I commend this statement to the House.
First thing this morning, before the financial markets opened, the Chancellor had appeared for the first time since the result. His mission, calm things down.
Good morning. It will not be plain sailing in the days ahead. But let me be clear, you should not underestimate our resolve. We were prepared for the unexpected, and we are equipped for whatever happens.
And the man who may soon take over was also trying to sound reassuring.
It's clear now that Project Fear is over. There's not going to be an emergency budget. People's pensions are safe. The pound is stable. The markets are stable. And I think that's all very good news.
The government has been given a destination, leaving the EU.
Are you going to stand?
We just don't know how we're going to get there or who will be in the driving seat.
And Andy's in Westminster for us now. And Andy, still many unanswered questions.
Yes, lots of questions about the negotiations and a big question about who will lead them, who will be the new Prime Minister, who will be the new leader of the Conservative Party. Well, to talk about that, I'm joined by two Conservative MPs, Adam Afriyie and Ed Vaizey. First of all, Adam Afriyie, we've got the rules now about how this leadership contest in the Conservative Party is going to be conducted. They want it all done by September the 2nd. It's very, very fast. Is this a stitch-up to help Boris get over the line?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a very controlled process, and it will be fair and it will be systematic. But I think
think it is important when there's a sense that there's maybe a vacuum of leadership. I think it's very important that the next Prime Minister is in place so he can lay out a very careful timetable about how we're going to withdraw, which makes us more open and outward looking to the world. So he needs that platform soon, or she needs that platform soon in order to achieve that goal.
But Ed, I mean, people have got to declare if they want to be candidates by Thursday. It looks as if it's going to be very tricky for anyone else to get up ahead of steam when Boris is so clearly the front runner. Do you worry about that in terms of a fair contest?
No, I don't. I mean, I agree with Adam. I think the sooner we get a new Prime Minister, the better. So it's a good process. The Prime Minister announced he wanted it done and done by the party conference, which starts in October. There was some talk about extending it, but I think all of us, you know, having gone through this extraordinary referendum, got this result, which we now have to work to implement for the good of the country, we want a Prime Minister in place as soon as possible.
So are you backing Boris Johnson?
I'm going to see who emerges as the candidate. I mean, it was very easy for me 10 years ago because I knew David Cameron. Once he announced, I was done and dusted. This is the first time I've actually had to think about it. And Boris is obviously a very strong candidate. But Theresa May, I think, will come forward, and then there'll be Remain candidates like Stephen Crabb as well.
Adam, are you backing Boris Johnson?
Actually, funny enough, my story is the same as Ed's. When David came on the scene, I backed him straight away. And I think this time, either I'd like to see a very narrow range of candidates so that the process is concluded quickly because the Parliament...
Like two even?
Well, maybe potentially, because the Conservative MPs have formed a view very quickly about the stability and the kind of lead they want. Alternatively, I think there needs to be a very wide range of candidates that reflects the modern Conservative Party.
But do you think the Conservative Party, the modern Conservative Party, which has been split by this referendum, and a lot of bad things have been said by each side about the other, are we really to believe that it's all coming back so easily and that everyone's just going, oh, that was a bit of fun, and you know, we all go back to where we were? Is it really like that?
Well, Ed and I were talking about this a little bit earlier in the chamber. The funny thing is I don't know if you found the same, but today I did sense that both sides are very, very, in the interest of the country and the interest of this leadership election, both sides are very comfortable, certainly MPs, to come back together to have some sort of unity candidate when it comes to these elections.
But people were calling each other liars during this referendum, Ed. I mean, you don't forget that sort of stuff so quickly,
there are
do you?
personal bruises, no doubt about it. And I think, you know, when we look at who the front runners are likely to be and who is potentially going to be the Prime Minister, there's no doubt that person will probably have to reach out to people who are on the other side of the debate. But I think there's a willingness, because I think we want to put the country first. We've got this extraordinary result, which I personally was not expecting, and so, but there will be bruises, no doubt about it. So you're right to be a bit sceptical.
I mean, you talk about a unity candidate. That seems to suggest Boris Johnson, although others, I mean, I was thinking Alan Duncan, who's another Conservative MP, was saying, don't assume that Boris has the backing of everybody. I mean, who do you think at this stage, one name, could be the stop Boris candidate, if I can put it like that? Who would it be?
There are probably 326 names. Can't possibly answer that question, but what I can
realistically?
Say... No, realistically, I really don't know. We don't... Look, Boris hasn't even got his nomination in. Nominations close on Thursday,
I think we can be sure
so
he's going
we'll find out. Look, is Boris a strong contender? Of course he is. There are others as well.
OK, Ed Vaizey, one name?
Well, I think Theresa May is very strong, but I do think Stephen Crabb as well from the Remain side will also emerge as a very strong candidate.
OK, Ed Vaizey, Adam Afria, thanks very much. And as I say, the Conservative Party is going to get on with this, and we should have the leader in place at the beginning of September.
Andy, thank you very much. Well, pressure is mounting on Jeremy Corbyn over his leadership of the Labour Party. All day yesterday and then again today, it was hard to keep up with a number of shadow cabinet ministers resigning. Even Mr Corbyn's deputy has told him he has no authority, but he's refusing to step aside. Catherine Jones reports.
The Leader of the Opposition, Jeremy Corbyn!
Taking aim at the colleagues who've deserted him, the Labour leader was defiant in the Commons today.
Our country is divided, and the country will thank neither the benches in front of me nor those behind for indulging in internal factioning manoeuvring at this time. We have...
Over the last 48 hours, wave after wave of the Labour front bench have quit in protest at Jeremy Corbyn's leadership.
The party is far bigger than one person, and I think he's got to realise that he's taken the party in a new direction, but he's now got to go with some dignity.
There were 30 people in Labour's shadow cabinet, but after Jeremy Corbyn sacked Hilary Benn for disloyalty, it set off a chain reaction that has left him with barely a handful of supporters. The other big names to go, along with Angela Eagle, include Heidi Alexander and Chris Bryant.
Look, the country's desperate for leadership at the moment. The country's so much instability and uncertainty. A strong Labour Party could do well in a general election, which may come before Christmas. But if we leave things as things stand, I think it could be a wipeout for the Labour Party.
Deputy Leader Tom Watson was posting pictures of himself at the Glastonbury Festival just before the mudslide of resignation letters began. He's now made it clear to Mr Corbyn he'll have to face a leadership challenge. But one of the MPs promoted today to fill a gap on the front bench says that's the last thing Labour and the country needs.
Now is not the time for in-party fighting. I think it's the time to unify and start making our demands to David Cameron and George Osborne.
Hilary Benn. Thank you very much.
MPs may cheer long and loud for the ringleaders trying to topple Mr Corbyn, but so far this attempted coup hasn't succeeded. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Well, that meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party is underway now, but just before it started, I spoke to Toby Perkins, who earlier today resigned from his position as Shadow Armed Forces Minister. And I began by asking him why he was stepping down now.
Well, I've spent the last 6 weeks speaking to people in Chesterfield about the EU referendum campaign, and I think in those conversations it became very clear that Jeremy Corbyn was much more of a barrier to people voting Labour than he was an attraction. I think that the way that the EU referendum campaign augurs pretty badly in terms of Jeremy's ability to get a message across and the quality of the people that he has surrounding him. And coupled with the way that he's operated over the previous 9 months, and the fact that we appear to be very close now to a general election, I think the Labour Party literally doesn't have the time to mess around now. It needs to get a leader in place who can command the support of a much bigger percentage of the country than Jeremy Corbyn has.
You say mess around, but it isn't a good advertisement, you might say, for the Labour Party at the moment. Isn't this a time when you should show a united front and be a credible opposition to the Conservative Party?
We definitely need to be a credible opposition. I think that's the problem. If we could achieve being a credible opposition just by all shutting up and standing behind Jeremy, then that would be lovely. The truth is we can't do that. It is clear that we have a leader that will not attract the support that is required. We also have a leader that is not capable of providing the scrutiny that the country needs from credible opposition and the alternative government that the country requires. So I actually think, unpleasant and ugly as it is at this moment in time, what we are in the process of doing is getting a Labour Party that is going to be in a position to do a job of opposition for the country and provide an alternative government that both Labour voters and people across the country desperately need.
Who is the person then to save the Labour Party? Name some names.
Well, I mean, I actually think there's several people that would massively improve our situation. There's a poll in the Daily Record today saying that Jeremy Corbyn resigning would provide an immediate 12% boost to the Labour Party. I think Hilary Benn should be persuaded to consider it. I think Dan Jarvis, Angela Regal, Tom Watson, I think all of these would be people who would be capable of making a real difference to the way the Labour Party is viewed. And you know, it's up to them to decide who wants to come forward and stand. But I think that it will be much better in terms of the way that the contest was conducted, if that contest, if indeed we had a contest, was conducted on the basis that Jeremy had stood down rather than having to fight him.
Toby Perkins, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, as we heard earlier, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor say robust contingency plans are in place for the economy. But what does it all mean for the pound in your pocket? Layla Hayes has been finding out.
Monday morning after Friday's Brexit bombshell, and it was still tense on the trading room floor.
Well, the markets are now open and the pound has recovered slightly after another drop in the Asian markets overnight. George Osborne will be hoping his statement has done enough to calm things here.
But it didn't take long for the pound to fall again, hitting a 31-year low against the dollar. David Buick supported the Leave campaign and believes this financial turmoil won't last.
What can you say to reassure our viewers who are seeing the pound fall, maybe worried about their holidays this summer?
Please understand that the minimum anything material can happen is 2.5 years. Please go and enjoy your holiday. Please go and enjoy your life. Don't give up. There's nothing to give up on.
Not everyone's so confident. Anil Patel imports products for his cafe in East London from Europe and now worries they will cost more.
The future right now is very uncertain. It's looking bleak.
How worried are you?
Very worried, mainly because we've got a young family as well. So, you know, it's our kids' future that we're worried about.
On the high street, we appear as divided as ever.
Since we've been on the EU or whatever it is, I think it's gone blooming down the pan.
Most stupid decision I think we've ever made in certainly my lifetime, and I would hope people would reconsider.
So if you're worried, here's some advice.
My big message is nothing has changed. Don't panic, keep calm, be sensible and carry on, because the real risk right now is we talk ourselves into recession, but we can control that. We can stop that happening by just carrying on.
We're being told not to worry, but with the financial markets still in turmoil, that is easier said than done. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
Well, a short time ago, I spoke to financial expert Martin Lewis, who you saw in that report, and I asked him what people's biggest concerns were.
I think it's split between two, mortgages and houses. Many people are asking, I'm in the middle of a house completion, I'm about to buy my first house, should I do it? And on the other side, are my savings safe? And people are very concerned out there. But I think what it's worth remembering is so far very little has actually changed. Yes, we're in a position of political anarchy. We've got splits amongst Labour, splits amongst Tories, questions about the stability of the union. Some people are asking for a second referendum, but we need to look at the big picture here. We've had a vote, we've had a result. That's changed sentiment. People are now starting to think differently on the back of that. The market's moved on the back of prospective changes, and these questions are coming on the back of sentiment changes. And yes, a few companies are saying they may leave the UK, some others might join, but that's only sentiment. And what we have to be very careful of is not to talk ourselves into a recession. We need to keep calm, carry on, be sensible, move, say something nice to someone who voted the other way and work together to make Britain a better place. But real change, and the one that in this debate was really fierce, was what happens when we actually leave the EU, which is a minimum really of 2.5 years' time. So we shouldn't start moving ourselves into a recession right now, because nothing substantial has actually changed yet. Keep calm, carry on.
We do know, though, that the pound itself, though, is weak, so that is naturally going to have an effect on imports. So I'm thinking things such as food, clothes, electricals.
Well, hold on. The pound is weak today. That is a sentiment change. The pound moves every day. Yes, it may stay weaker for a longer time, and that would impact imports. That would make things more expensive. It would increase inflation. It would also make exports more competitive and help the economy. There's swings and roundabouts here, but the pound moves every day. And you can't take a snapshot and say it's down today and it was down on Friday. It may start to move back. 2 years ago, it was lower than this. Yep, it's going to be a bit more expensive if you go on holiday. Yep, if the pound stays where it is right now, petrol might go up a few pence and a few other imports might be a bit more costly. But as I say, the pound moves every day. We're going to have to see what happens and how it plays out over the next few months. But if everybody stops doing everything, then we really do have an economic problem.
A time of uncertainty and change, though, and we always know that is bad for savers.
Well, look, savings rates have been terrible for years, and I don't see any reason they're going to start getting any better. But we want people to save, and this is a time of uncertainty, certainly. I mean, and you can tell I'm trying to be positive because that's the most important thing right now. So yes, there's some nervousness about where we'll be in 3 or 4 years, not next week, in 3 or 4 years, but we've got time to try and make it as good as we can be and to make Britain a great country with a strong economy that's fair. And this is an opportunity, and that's how I'm determined to start seeing it from now on.
Good to have your thoughts, Martin Lewis. Thank you very much. Coming up on 5 News tonight, we speak to voters in Hartlepool about why they voted to leave the EU. And the Iceland fans are hoping their tiny nation can knock England out of the Euros. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News tonight. Police have been put on heightened alert after a spike of post-referendum hate crimes. Over the past 4 days, the number of incidents reported to a police hate crime website have increased by 57%. Well, police are investigating a number of cases, including racist graffiti and hate notes targeting Polish communities. Simon Viger has the story.
We've blurred out the first part, but this is the hate message which greeted Poles on Sunday morning at their main community centre in London. It's been cleaned off, but concerns linger about how big a minority actually feels like that. The majority of people in Hammersmith are represented in these cards and flowers, and they are appreciated.
It's very kind, you know. I've got a couple emails today as well from proper English people, you know, who say that they are quite ashamed. It's not good for everybody.
And I'm coming in London looking for job, you know. And say this, oh my God.
Do you feel angry or sad?
Angry.
Or angry?
Yeah, this is stupid. Very sad. Very sad. Disbelief. And I don't know which way to go now.
There are worrying reports of verbal abuse in the street, and this sign was left on a doorstep in Huntingdon. The far-right National Front displayed this banner in Newcastle, while in Romford this man's T-shirt read, "Send them back."
Absolutely disgusting.
Messages stating the opposite are overwhelming the Polish centre following the graffiti.
My reaction was total surprise and shock. It's the last thing we expected to happen. Here in London, you know, London, the melting pot that it's always been, you don't expect that kind of thing here.
Police are studying CCTV while the local MP calls for calm.
The people who voted Leave are no more likely to have committed acts like this than the people who voted Remain. I think the link is that tiny minority of idiots and extremists who would do something like this now feel, as a result of not just the Brexit vote, but some of the rhetoric that went on around it from people like Farage and co, that they have licence to do this, that they're off the leash, if you like, and our job is to put them back on the leash pretty quickly.
The vast majority of Leave voters do not agree with this. The vast majority of messages today are ones of love and not hate. Simon Viger, 5 News.
Well, one of the towns which voted overwhelmingly for Britain to leave the EU was Hartlepool. The Labour heartland is one of the most deprived areas in Britain, and as a result has been the recipient of hundreds of millions of pounds of EU investment. Dominic Reynolds has been to find out why so many people there wanted to leave.
It's quiet down at the quay. They used to build ships here, and with steel making and fishing there were tens of thousands of jobs for Hartlepool people. But most of them are long gone. Why did you vote the way you did?
For a protest vote. I did it.
Yeah?
So my vote counted.
Robert says he was trying to get politicians to listen when he voted Leave.
They come around scrounging for your vote, and then they get down at London and forget the rest of the world exists. They forget about this place anyway.
At first, Alan told me his Leave vote was about EU fishing policy, but what he wanted to talk about was immigration.
They've hit Middlesbrough hard there now. But they'll all creep this way, without a doubt.
So it's not here yet, but you fear it's coming?
It's going to come, yeah, without a doubt, yeah. We don't want them here. Can I say that?
You can say what you like.
We don't want them, that's it, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Feel strongly about it?
I do, we do, yeah.
In town, immigration was on the mind of support worker Eileen too.
There's got to be a stop to it. And the thing is, with the North East, people have never ever listened to what we've had to say. And this is our only way of being able to speak our minds, you know, because we've always been the poor relations, you know. And it's a case of now we've had the right to stand up and be counted, and that's what we've done.
Remain voters weren't easy to find today, but at the bar of the Globe was Ian. He says he thinks his town has been brainwashed.
Half of them didn't even know what they were voting for.
Didn't know what they were voting for?
But they don't. All around it's immigration. They've been brainwashed for them, Boris and co.
The stats show that immigration here is, compared to the rest of the UK, very low, but tempers are frayed. Hartlepool's voted Labour for over 50 years. Last Thursday, they voted for something else altogether. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News in Hartlepool.
Well, from the EU vote to the Euros, could there be a second British exit from Europe this evening? Well, England fans certainly hope that isn't the case. The team faced Iceland in the last 16 of the Euros and they're strong favourites to win. But could the smallest and lowest ranked country have other ideas? Well, let's join Peter Lane, who's in Nice for us. Peter.
Well, Danny, we can talk about the teams on paper, but they are both unbeaten in this tournament. The two countries haven't faced each other for more than a decade, when England won by 6-1. So Iceland do have a score to settle, and they are enjoying being one of the surprises of Euro 2016.
A small taste of the sound coming to Nice, as Iceland, famous for its geysers, takes on England, famous for its geezers.
Should do it, shouldn't we, really? That's what I mean. Ain't got a better opportunity.
Confident. It's going to be a big win, I reckon.
As confident as you can be being an England fan.
Life's never a beach for England fans, but taking on lowly Iceland here should be straightforward. For the nation of just 330,000, the same population as Leicester, this is the biggest of big deals.
We've never been to the competition at all, so it's strange.
It's amazing and fantastic to be here. It's unbelievable.
Is anybody left back home in Iceland? Are they all here?
Yeah, we asked the last person, to turn off the lights, So now it's completely dark in Iceland, but everybody is here.
On the heat of the beach, the cool of the Iceland fans as they ponder where tonight could take them. But forget team tactics, these guys bring with them far more fascinating facts about their country.
Over 8% of the nation of Iceland has travelled to France for the Euros.
Until 1989, it was illegal to drink beer in Iceland.
In Iceland, we have a dating app which lets you check if you're dating someone you're related to.
The Icelandic language hasn't changed in over 1,000 years. Let me translate that for you. Íslenska tungumálið hefur ekki breyst í 1000 ár.
However things translate onto the pitch tonight, there will be no second chance for Iceland or England. It's win or go home.
And Peter, needless to say, a lot of pressure on England tonight.
Well, England's fans have spent the day enjoying the beach, strolling around the town. It's a pretty laid-back atmosphere, much better than at the start of the tournament. They know they've done well to be up against Iceland tonight in theory, but they know it is dangerous to make assumptions. If they lose, it'll be an embarrassment. No doubt it'll cost manager Roy Hodgson his job. If they win, then it's the small business of taking on the host France in the quarter-finals.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Peter. That's all from us. Sean Welby has the weather next, and I'll be back with the updates throughout the evening. So from all the team, have a lovely evening. Thanks very much for watching.